Well, in Somalia, more than 800,000 people are internally displaced by violence and drought conditions. Now, in the last 7 months of those conditions, the swelling number of internally displaced people is putting strain on refugee camps. Now, in 2011, similar drought conditions in the region led to 200,000 deaths and more than 1 million displaced people then. International charity organizations and the United Nations are launching new projects to address the famine issue and assist those that are displaced. Well, our TRT World Africa reporter Fidelis Mbah joins us now live in the studio to talk more about this growing problem in Somalia. It doesn't seem to end. All the conditions are there to keep fueling not just a refugee crisis, but now their internal displacement numbers rising.
Yeah, it wouldn't, I don't see the numbers actually dropping anytime soon because of, first of all, the shocks of the famine, because things are getting worse. Most of the people who are actually supposed to stay in their communities to be able to get food for themselves can't even feed. So they have to run to urban centers where they feel that people can maybe import food or maybe they can get something to eat in other communities that were fortunate to have rainfall. And then you talk about those who were displaced as a result of conflict. Al-Shabaab continues to gain grounds despite the efforts of the military forces to be able to push them out. So these two main factors actually more like pushing people out. You're in a place you can eat, and then you're also suffering from not being able to sleep because you don't know when the next attack will happen.
Right. We mentioned some of the international aid organizations that are stepping up some efforts. Is the Somali government doing enough, though, to address the crises in Somalia?
I must tell you, it's really tough for the Somali government because you think the government is new, relatively new, but then you have the issue of insecurity, which is like the main thrust of the problem. Right now, even apart from Mogadishu, you can't really say, even Mogadishu is relatively safe. Nowhere is really safe in the country. So the president has been occupied with trying to ensure that Al-Shabaab is pushed out of Mogadishu so that at least government business and other activities can go on in the capital city. And then with that, they don't even have the funds, even though they're getting support from the African Union, they're getting support from international organizations. So they're still struggling with handling the issue of insecurity. And now with these swelling numbers of people running away as a result of famine and conflict. So it's really, really tricky for the government. It's not like, I don't think they are incapable, right, but it's just that the conditions are just too tough for them to handle.
And Fidelis, is part of the reason that the number of internally displaced is rising so dramatically because they can no longer flee abroad. Kenya used to have some of the biggest refugee camps on the planet. They've been shutting those down. They've been locking up their borders more and more. Has this compounded the problems in Somalia?
Yeah, because before now, some of them would easily cross the border either to stay with their loved ones in Kenya. Some would even go to Ethiopia. Some would go to other places, but it's increasingly so difficult because you can't blame the Kenyan government. They've come under serious Al-Shabaab attacks as a result of people who actually infiltrated the number of people who were crossing, who were supposed to be refugees. Even those in refugee camps have been, they've been accused of plotting most of the attacks that happened in Kenya from refugee camps. So, which is why the Kenyan government has been very tough in terms of meeting new people and trying to shut out those who are already there. Right. So it's also something it's a very difficult decision by the Kenyan government. But again, it's something that they can't run away from because they have to also secure their own borders.
Okay. Fidelis, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for that.